Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
It's a void. I would say definitely it's a void. There's a little bit of, a little disappointment how it ended, but a lot of pride in what we've done, and a lot of really positive feedback. So it's kind of, you had those emotions running back and forth where you're, it's been an emotional roller coaster the last 6 days.
Those are the first words publicly outside of a statement from former Clemson baseball coach Jack Leggett as he talked today to some media up in the Clemson area as he was packing up the truck, moving out of his office and saying goodbye to Clemson after 22 years with the Tigers. If all goes well, he'll be joining us here at the bottom of the hour for, as far as I know, his first electronic interview, if you want to try and play something up. He's talked to the media, a few media up at Clemson this afternoon, and hopefully, if we can catch him as he is traveling, if all goes well, we'll have him at the bottom of the hour. It's been a very, very busy day. Let me welcome you into Sports Talk. Phil Kornbluth here. No K-Mac, no Pro. They are off. K-Mac is off on vacation. Pro is just simply off. The state man, Graham Pope, he is here. And Larkin Belton is here as well. Also in our studio, we'll be talking with him in a little bit, is longtime high school football coach in the Midlands area, Coach John Day, who has written a very nice book and called The Encyclopedia of Armed Services Football, the complete history of the glory years. It's a good-looking book. The coach will tell us about it and tell you how you can get it. And we'll have that coming up in just a little bit. We've got coverage of the USC camp today. First day of camp this summer for the Gamecocks. They put out some offers. Will Register, the junior tight end from Chapin. Kelvin Harmon, wide receiver from New Jersey. Those are two of the most notable names to get offers. Register's a 17 guy. Harmon's a 16 guy. They offered an 18 kid as well. Big defensive lineman from Louisville by the name of Belk. And he looks good in pictures, I'll tell you that. And he's probably going to be a kid that will develop and create a lot of interest in recruiting circles as time goes by. Complete coverage of that coming up. We'll talk with Dwayne McLemore here in just a couple of minutes from GoGamecocks.com. He was out at the USC camp this morning, and we'll catch up with David Hood as well from TigerNet on the Clemson camp later on this evening as well. They're a little bit later in the day getting things started up at Clemson today for their second camp of the week. And we'll update qualifying at Michigan, the big race this weekend at Michigan. Oh, the latest on Clemson in the baseball search as well. We'll give you the latest on that coming up too. If you want to jump on board at any point in the program that we can get to calls, the number is 800-956-7266. You can always email us as well, talkback@sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter. It is @SportsTalkSC. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you do that immediately. For those of you who are on Twitter, we'll be back in just a moment. All right, coming up in just a couple of minutes, Dwayne McLemore from GoGamecocks.com will join us. He's been over at USC's camp today, and we'll get his take on what he saw on the field over USC, the practice fields, as they had several hundred youngsters out there. Some, of course, major prospects, and some, of course, just football players who want to learn more about football. They're not all going to be big-time Division I prospects. Let me catch you up on a couple of things, and then we'll get to Dwayne. The Clemson interview situation as things have been happening. Today, Monty Lee had his second interview with Clemson. This one was up at Clemson. Of course, he met earlier in the week in Charleston with Clemson folks. And also today, the interview occurred for Bradley LeCroy, the assistant coach who's sort of been running things over the last 8 days since Jack Leggett was fired. So Bradley LeCroy had his meeting with Dan Radakovich. Now, the Anderson newspaper, Independent Mail, reported that Radakovich has already interviewed John Scheck of Maryland and Virginia assistant Kevin McMullen. Of course, we know he interviewed Randy Mazey as well already. Other reports say the interviews are still to come. So they're obviously on the list. You know, it's somewhat irrelevant if the interviews have happened or are going to happen. If they are talked to, that's all all that matters. So those are the ones that apparently Dan Radakovich is focusing on right now, though the Clemson Insider said they have another name of a candidate that they cannot release at this time until they get more information. So there could be another name popping up in the not-too-distant future. So that search continues. And, again, bottom of the hour, hopefully we'll have Jack Leggett with us here on the program tonight. What else did I want to mention quickly? Qualifying at Michigan for this weekend's race, and it's going to be Casey Kane, who's done really nothing this year. He wins the pole, 201.992. Kevin Harvick next, 201.613. Brad Keselowski, Carl Edwards, and Ryan Blaney qualified fifth at 201.056. The top five all qualified at 201 or better, and they were the only ones. Jeff Gordon next at 6th, Austin Dillon 7th, Jimmy Johnson 8th, Martin Truex Jr. 9th, and Kyle Busch 10th. We never played our Martin Truex interview, really not interview, his comments from Darlington earlier this week. We'll do that tonight, State Man. Would you please remember to let's do that tonight, because I want to get to that. Martin Truex Jr. qualified 9th, and Kyle Busch was 10th, and Dale Jr. qualified 14th. Tony Stewart qualified 15th, and my girl, Danica Patrick, she qualified 19th, 198.462. Vic Beasley has signed, according to reports, 4-year contract with the Atlanta Falcons. It's worth $14.5 million. $8.8 million signing bonus is fully guaranteed. And when he signs, the Falcons will then have all 7 of their draft picks under contract. All right, future first-round draft picks maybe on the fields at USC today for the first day of the Steve Spurrier High School Football Camp for prospects and others. Dwayne McLemore from GoGamecocks.com and the state newspaper, state.com, was there. He joins us on the phone. Dwayne, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being our eyes and ears out there today. So what'd you see? What kind of caught your attention?
Well, I spent a lot of time watching Brandon McElwain. He's worked out at this camp 2 years in a row. He did not work out at the showcase last year, worked out at a similar camp. So spent some time watching him. He was very accurate. I think he was probably more accurate than he was last year. One thing I have noticed about him in particular is he's dropped about 25 pounds. So he's a lot slimmer, and I think that's probably what has played into, he was a Elite 11 regional MVP this past weekend, got invited to the Elite 11 in Oregon. So he's sort of on a hot streak. Part of that is, losing weight, getting faster. So he's one that caught my attention. After him, watched Will Register. We kind of went into this fully expecting, he's a Chapin tight end, class of 2017, expecting him to get an offer. He did. he looked good, ran well, caught the ball, which is kind of what you want to do, and especially in the pass settings when they do the drills and the 7-on-7, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a recruit, but really what caught my attention was just listening to Marcus Lattimore talk. He spoke to the offensive line, defensive line group, and then to the full group. And yeah, he's doing work for for South Carolina for sure. Those kids know who he is, and has a good message. And it was kind of a good end of the day speech, I think, for. And you got to believe that Steve Spurrier Jr. loved having him there to be able to talk to those kids and sort of be a face. He's only 23 years old.
Yeah,
24 years old. So he's the kids know who he is, and they know his story, and he's certainly there to sell the virtues of South Carolina football, and he does a good job at it.
What did you sense about the organization, the way the camp was being run? And do you think the Gamecocks were kind of getting the benefits that you hope to get from these camps in terms of impressing some players who are undecided about their future plans?
Not being an expert at what other schools do. I mean, Clemson, Alabama, some of these schools do these 3-day camps where these kids go stay for 3 days. South Carolina runs theirs a little more quickly. It's either half day or all day. I did talk to Brandon McElwain's dad. He said the camps in the South, or in particular, everybody wants to talk to you a lot more friendly. So from that perspective, that's someone who's from the Philadelphia area, on how the Southern charm of the camps go for those guys. They get to see what you get. What's different about today as opposed to tomorrow is you get some guys who come in and work out, like the Kelvin Harmon kid from New Jersey got an offer, won't be at the showcase tomorrow. So they get it. They do. Wide receivers in general, Steve Spurrier Jr. is probably working with 70 or 100 receivers, and there are a lot of kids. There's some 5-foot ninth graders in there that are just here, just local kids, I'm sure, that signed up to play. So, they paid their money and they're there. But, do get a chance to look at guys like that and evaluate them, like a Kelvin Harmon who got the offer today. It's a good chance for those guys to come through. They're all on tours. He'll be somewhere else tomorrow and maybe even somewhere else Sunday. So yeah, it's pretty well run. It's hot. It's not Steve Spurrier's fault, but it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
They moved the camp from July to mid-June, and we've actually had some of the hottest temperatures we've had all year. And tomorrow will be no exception.
Yeah, you're right about that. You had a chance to have McElwain over at the paper for a photo shoot. So you had a chance to visit with him a little bit more. And just one point with him, with the never-ending speculation about Spurrier's coaching future, you get the feeling he's firmly committed to South Carolina regardless of what happens with that?
Well, he said so much earlier this week in another report, and he told me the same thing today. I mean, he's locked in. He's as South Carolina as you can get for someone who wasn't born in South Carolina. His dad was born here, raised here, went to school here. His grandma's been here for a long time. She hadn't seen him play. That's one thing we talked about. She hasn't seen him play since he was like 10 or 11 years old. So she's looking forward to him being here. And I asked him, I said, no matter how South Carolina does this year, no matter who's coaching the team next year, we're all going to speculate on Spurrier, until Spurrier does decide to retire.
Mm-hmm.
He said he's locked in. He's South Carolina all the way. He loves the school. He loves the state. This is where he wants to be no matter what. And he hasn't. I asked him about, taking visits, taking calls, all that stuff. And, he shut down recruiting a while back. He said it's been a few months. I think he heard from Penn State and Mississippi State a few months ago. He pretty much told him, I'm solid and you don't need to call anymore. So he's locked in.
All right.
I mean, it's very rare.
He be cocky. That's what he'd be. He'd be cocky. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Now, this is just the first stage for USC this weekend. They've got their showcase camp. That's tomorrow. That actually doesn't begin until 6 o'clock over at Williams-Brice Stadium. And they'll have some more big-timers in, including former commitment Kyle Davis, who they hope to re-impress and maybe get back in the running for him. And we'll be right back.
Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2.
All right, coming up in recruiting in a little bit, we'll tell you why John Simpson didn't make it into USC's camp today and is not coming in this weekend. And we'll spring a new name on you. A running back will be in the Gamecock Showcase camp tomorrow night, so stay tuned for that. Recruiting coming up. Welcome in good friend, longtime coach John Day, who won his share of games back in the day when he was coaching in the Columbia area. And he's done media, he's done broadcasting. And now you've turned author, Encyclopedia of Armed Forces Football, the complete history of the glory years. What moved you to write this book?
Several years ago, many years ago, I was reading, and I'm a bit of a pseudo historian, so I'm always checking around. And I always found a gap, Phil, most notably in the World War II years. And I say, I know Choo Choo Justice played, I know all these people played during that year, but nothing was ever out there. So I said, I'm going to take a look. So I started looking, and of course, like anything else, the more you look, the more you find. So this is what was born of it, about 470 pages.
Wow.
As much info as I could find, and I probably could find another 50 or 100 without too much trouble, but you have to stop somewhere.
What are you chronicling?
Chronicling 3 eras: the World War I era, when service football began, only time in 1917 and 18. Then I chronicled World War II, the real glory years, 42, 43, 44, and 45. Very good years, and lots of people played and coached then. I'll give you some more on that later. Then I ended up with the Korean era, roughly from 50 to 55. And reported those eras, and then I had to cut it off. There was more service ball played after 55. There was some played in between those years, those eras, but I concentrated on those 3 eras.
And back in those years that you're writing about, the service academies, their football teams, they were among the nation's best.
I didn't write much about the service academies as much as I did the base teams, but it was has been very well chronicled how good Army and Navy were. And I've seen that many, many times. But this basically will take Camp Jackson in the World War I era. It'll take Fort Jackson into the Korean era. And it takes Charleston Navy Base. The great ones were Great Lakes, Iowa Pre-Flight, Fleet City out in California, all over the country. Their bases. And I didn't concentrate on any one area.
Gotcha. So this isn't about West Point. This isn't about Annapolis. This is about teams that were playing on various bases around the country.
That's exactly right.
And outside the country as well?
No, I had to stay inside the country. There was just not much documentation outside the country. I could find a bit from here and there, but then I just couldn't find enough to really get into it. My brother actually played in Japan.
Did he really?
During the Korean conflict. He never fussed at me about not including that, but I told him, I said, there's just no documentation. I would leave more out than I would put in.
Sure. All right, hang on, Coach. We'll get back to you in a little bit. John Day is here in studio. The name of the book, Encyclopedia of Armed Forces Football. It's available now for purchase?
Yes, Amazon has it out there. My publisher, St. Johann Press, has it. It's out there, and then I'll tell people how to get it from me if they would like.
Okay, and hopefully Jack Leggett coming up after the break. Well, today was the day that Jack Leggett chose to go public with his thoughts, his sentiments, his emotions about leaving the job that he loved for 22 years, the school that he loved for 22 years, and the program that he helped take to a very high standard. He inherited a great program. He kept it at that level for 22 years. Today, Coach met with the media up in Clemson for a little bit before taking off for a vacation. But he's very graciously taking a few minutes out to join us here on Sports Talk. I'm not going to say for one final time because I know we'll have you on with us again. But first of all, thank you for joining us. I know it wasn't easy today to talk about everything. I'm sure the emotions were running at a very high level for you. How are you doing now, 8 days after all this came down?
I'm doing okay, Phil. I'm just trying to, absorb it all and try to figure out. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
In the car?
We got you.
Yeah, just trying to figure out what the next step is and, see where I go from here.
Let's go back, if we can, to 8 days ago. And what can you tell us about what went down in that meeting? Did you have any kind of a fighting chance to save your job and continue on as Clemson's coach?
Phil, I just would just tell you this, that, anytime I have a meeting behind closed doors, I don't want it to be public. And so I would just say that I felt real good coming out of Tuesday's meeting, and then it just didn't work out on Thursday. And it's unfortunate because I love Clemson and love my players and love, what we've established with our baseball program. I'm very proud of it. Very proud of what our players have accomplished over time, and our assistant coaches, and I've had a lot of great memories with it. It was kind of, to me, it was a different way to do it, but at the same time, I have to accept what I have to accept and move on, and something good will come up. And I just want to say publicly that I appreciate the opportunity that I had early on from Bobby Robinson, Dwight Rainey, and Coach Wilhelm gave me an opportunity, and their players from the past accepted me very closely, and we tried to accept them as a great part of the tradition here at Clemson. And I want to thank my players and the coaches that I've had along the way, and my coaches now, and fans, and all the people in the athletic department, and all the coaches I've coached alongside, and the coaches I've coached against. Have been an awesome opportunity, and my family has sacrificed an awful lot, for the school and for the chance that we've had to put a great product out on the field, and I feel very proud about it. And unfortunately, it didn't work, in other eyes, and so I've got to accept that, move on, be proud of what we've done, and hope from here on out the best for everybody.
Now, there was a report last week that you offered to Dan Radakovich to coach a couple of more years, 2-3 years, and then, that would be it, and you would retire. Was that something that you put on the table for him as part of your discussions?
Well, the honest answer to that is, it would have been the same way I put it 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, and now. Is the answer to that question has always been, as long as I wake up in the morning, I got to fire my gut to go out there and try to kick somebody's rear end every day, and I want to develop our players to I think the best of their abilities, and develop not only as baseball players but into people that are productive and great human beings afterwards, and represent the school and community. As long as I want to get up in the morning and fight for Clemson and battle and do everything I think and keep my priorities in order, whether it's schoolwork and how we handle the NCAA rules and how we handle things. As long as I got that in my heart, and as long as I know I have the energy and the fire to do these things, and that's how long I would want to coach. And that was my answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth.
Did Dan want you to change up some staff, and you said no to that, and and that led to the dismissal?
No, I think, I think I really don't want to get into everything that was inside, but, that's not something I was willing to do and didn't think was necessary. And, I've always had loyal, hardworking staff members around me. If I thought that was something that needed to be done that would really change things around, and then, it'd always been an option, but it's not one of those things, that I thought was on my option table anyway.
When you looked at the last 2 or 3 years of your program, do you feel that it had slipped some from where it was? And if so, do you believe that in time you would have gotten Clemson back to where it was 2010, 2009, going to the World Series, winning regionals, hosting regionals, things of that nature?
I honestly have had a lot of confidence in our program all the time. I love what the kids get out of it. I love how they battle. I love how they represent the university. I love how they win. We've had, you look around, we've had a lot of success. If you're objective, a lot of success. And it's very difficult to get to the College World Series. It's difficult to get to your conference tournament. It's difficult to get to the NCAA tournament. It's a little bit more level playing field for everybody. You can see that around the country. You can see it everywhere. And, I feel like we always are knocking at the door, and, we're one of those programs that I've always had a lot of pride in. And we've, the reason we kept our number 9 recruiting class is because they've always felt we're consistent and we have a chance, and we've got a great tradition. And so there's always room for improvement. That's something we always strive for. Always want to win one more game or 2 more games or more games and get yourself where you have planned at the beginning of the season. Doesn't always work out that way. But I really think the total measure of this baseball program is what these kids become, relationships that we have, how they represent the school, yes, how they win. So I am proud of that, and that's something that I think we can hang our hats on and feel good about. And we always want to win more. Everybody wants to win more, and for sure that's something we always strive to do. And I think we were on the right track of that. And like I say, it's difficult nowadays, but I think it's a good future ahead if everybody continues to work hard, and that was what we were willing to do.
Did you and Dan clash personally? And if so, did that have a role in what came down 8 days ago?
I don't know. I'm always working hard for my boss. I'm always working hard for the university. Always trying to, do the best I possibly can and be loyal and put forth my best effort all the time. And I don't feel that way, or at least didn't feel that way. And it's one of those things where if you had an own plan, then it's been executed, and we just got to move on. And I wish the university the best of luck, and I wish the next coach the best of luck, and I wish my players that are here the best of luck. And I'm a little disappointed and hurt. Of course, anybody would be. You put a quarter of a century of your life into it, but I'll recover from it at some point and hold my head high in this town. And got a tremendous amount of friends, and I've heard from over 500 people, from fans to family to coaches that we played against, coaches competed against throughout the years, to my players, to my recruits, to parents of the recruits, to you name it. More players at every college I've been to, the colleges I've been to. So that's been the blessing out of this thing, is the fact that
All right, Jack, hang on one second. I hate to jump in. I got to hit this hard break, and we'll come right back to you. Jack Leggett with us here on Sports Talk. Okay, back with former Clemson baseball coach Jack Leggett here on Sports Talk. Thank you for hanging on. You were saying that you'd heard from over 500 people and all the calls from coaches and players, competitors, et cetera. And I got to believe that you got a phone call from Ray Tanner after all this came down, I would assume.
Honestly, I haven't heard, from anyone down there, and I have a lot of respect for Ray, and always enjoy my competition against him. I haven't yet heard, but always, I know it's always been a big battle, Clemson, South Carolina, but I've always respected the rivalry and the passion from both sides, and the big passion from both sides about the rivalry. And so I hope that continues and everybody keeps that in perspective. It's tough. It's a tough rivalry, but it's one of the better rivalries around. But, I certainly wish them the best of luck as well down the road, and good people.
That's what I get for assuming things, I guess. You should never do that. Do you believe that do you believe that with the way baseball is today, for so many years, baseball was in the shadows of football and basketball. Just win and be competitive and go to Omaha every so often, everybody would be happy. Now it's big business. Baseball is becoming not as big as football and basketball business-wise, but it's becoming big business with the big stadiums and all the money being spent and generated by television, et cetera. Do you think guys like you who coach at one place for 20-some-odd years, or Mike Martin at Florida State for all those years, or some of these older coaches who've been at one place for a long, long time, is this the end of a generation like that because the pressure on winning and getting to Omaha and hosting regionals and super regionals has become so great?
I hope not, because the coaches that are out there, they're doing a good job. They have their priorities in order with their players and what this is really all about. I'm hoping that people see the value in that and never lose sight of it. Yes, it can be a little business oriented at times, and there is that side of it. But in the end, when you look back 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, it becomes about relationships. It becomes about doing things the right way. It becomes about the lessons that these kids learn out on the field. And yes, there's nobody wants to win more than myself or Mike Martin or anybody else who's been around a long period of time. That passion never leaves. And it's just the way it is. But at the same time, I hope there's always some kind of sense of priorities. And the priorities to me are, yes, you want to try to win. Yes, you want to put something out on the field and in the classroom and socially out there that represents the university in a first-class manner. And that ultimately is the number one goal, I think, of college athletics. And I hope that never changes. And I see it change here and there, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes the kids get caught up in the middle of it, and there's a lot to be said for what you can teach out on the baseball field and what you can teach in the weight room and in the batting cages and all around. There's a lot of value to that, and I hope that never gets shoved off to the side in any sport, not just baseball or football or basketball, but been around a long period of time, and the impact of that part of it is so much more valuable than a run or two here and there. And I would hate to see any program valued on that as opposed, on the run, wins and losses, unless there's a true disparity, unless there's a true lack of interest or effort, passion, and then I can see it. But I hope it never gets lost in this whole thing, is the fact that it's about these kids, and it's about how they develop and what they go on to do long after a run or two here and there goes by.
Well, for 22 years,
there's some great coaches out there, and they're they're to be respected. Anytime you do something for a long time and do it well, like some of the coaches you mentioned, I hope that their fan base respects it, because it's an important part of the university, and I want to say this, Phil, before we get off.
Sure.
We got great fans. We have great, we have a great university. We got a lot of great things going on in Clemson, and I just have been privileged to be a part of it. Would love to have seen it continue and have an association that will always be a part of it. And I've some unbelievable people that I've come into contact with and been associated to work with, and a great opportunity. And I wish.
All right, Jack, hate to do it to you. Hang on. We'll be right back. Hard break. Be right back. Well, I'd love to give you the entire 2 hours, but I know you got other things on your mind. We could sit here all day and talk to you, but I want you to, Coach, be able to finish up what you were saying there at the very end.
I think I was probably in the middle of just saying that I've had a great experience and I appreciate the opportunity, and I miss my players and miss the coaches that I work with in the athletic, miss the association with the fans. I miss the competition. And it's a great opportunity for me, and I'm just pleased to have been a part of it, and pleased to have met all the people that I met along the way. And I just, we just encourage, and I want to thank all the high school coaches in the state, and all of the competition I've had over the years has been great. It's sometimes been tough and it's heated because both schools go at it, but both schools have passionate fans, great programs, and hopefully good futures. And just hope everybody will support each other. Remember what this is all about the players, and it's about trying to make them feel comfortable and supported, and give them the best backing you possibly can. And just want to tell you, Phil, and I appreciate your association. I appreciate our friendship, and hopefully that'll continue down the road too. And I just wish everybody the best. Great ride. Just love everything about it.
We don't forget people after 22 years, Jack. We'll always be thinking about you and hope that we'll be talking to you again from a coaching standpoint real soon.
Anytime, Phil. I appreciate it. And you guys have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. Safe travels. All right, Jack Leggett, very passionate throughout our conversation, I think, and we thank him for taking time out to be with us after going public today with his first comments outside of his statement regarding his dismissal from Clemson. If you missed any of that, we'll have it up on the website for you here in just a little bit. All right, quickly to recruiting. Let me run through what I've got. Defensive back Marlon Character from Atlanta, one of USC's top targets, did not make it in today, is not coming in this weekend. He will be in next weekend, he says. He also plans to visit Virginia Tech. Right now, the Gamecocks and Hokies are the top two. USC offered 2017 tight end Will Register of Chapin. Clemson offered him earlier in the week. Right now, he says it's going to be very tough choosing between those two if it comes down to those two. Offensive lineman Chandler Reeves of McDonough, Georgia, will be back at Clemson at 1 o'clock tomorrow for his second visit of the week. He camped there earlier this week and was offered by the Tigers. He'll go to Georgia Tech on Monday. Those are his top two. USC offered receiver Kelvin Harmon, 6'3", 190 of Palmyra, New Jersey, during camp today. He has other offers from NC State, North Carolina, BC, Syracuse, Rutgers, West Virginia, and others. USC offered 2018 defensive lineman Josh Belk of Louisville. He's 6'3", 320. LSU also offered today. USC offered running back Jordan Brown of Durham today. Offensive lineman John Simpson did not make it to USC today because of some academic things he was working on. Running back Cade Carney of Davidson, North Carolina, will be at USC Showcase Camp tomorrow. He's rushed for nearly 4,000 yards in his career. And in basketball, Clemson offered 6'10" Sadi Keita of Greenville. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, it's been an action-packed show here tonight. Thanks again to Jack Leggett for spending quality time with us here on Sports Talk. We heard from Dwayne McLemore from GoGamecocks.com on the USC camp today. We gave you our recruiting reports. David Hood, hopefully, we'll catch up with him here in a little bit to talk about Clemson's second camp of the week and what's happening there with some of their prospects. They've got one of their top receiver prospects in for this particular camp, DeAndre Overton. They'd like to land him to be part of another good-looking group of receivers that they are bringing in. Monty Dutton will be with us at the bottom of the hour, the full Monty on NASCAR, and also Martin Truex Jr., winner last week at Pocono, and one of the favorites right now to win the Sprint Cup Championship. Coach John Day is with us for a few more minutes. The name of his book, Encyclopedia of Armed Forces Football, The Complete History of the Glory Days, something you've been working on for some 20, 25 years. I would think, Coach, that anybody who had a family member at one of these bases and may have played football would be interested in finding this book.
And trying to find out if they, in fact, played during that time, if, what position they played, how many years, because a lot of these guys, Phil, played during the season. After the season, they were deployed, some overseas, some to, other places in the States. So there are a lot of ifs and ands in the situation, but I chronicled about as many folks as I could find that I pretty much knew played at least one season or part of a season.
And what's I'm finding out, thumbing through this, is that these teams, these service teams, these camp teams, they played college teams, they played NFL teams.
Yes,
during that time.
They sure did. One of the things I did that didn't probably hit the register really hard is I created a little bit of a system to, I guess, help the teams that played those tough schedules, because some teams may have played a very weak schedule and won a lot of games and got some acclaim for it. And I tried to even the playing field out a little bit with that. But if you'll let me, sure. There are a couple things that stood out about service ball, not just the book, but about service ball itself. One is during World War I, there were what they called all-star teams on these bases. They get different guys from different parts of the base, put them together. They played college football or high school football. The first time that we'd ever seen what might be called an all-star team. And from that, people started wanting to watch those games. It was quite amazing. It was not much attendance to begin with, but then they caught on. And from that, George Halas started the NFL in 1921 because of his playing days at Great Lakes, because he played with like 5 future Hall of Famers.
Hang on, Coach. We'll come back, let you finish up, and tell folks where they can get the book. Once again, we'll be right back. Round 3 of the Palmetto Amateur at the Palmetto Golf Club in Aiken. Austin Langdale from Townville, 69 today. He leads. He is 7 under. Ben Schlotman from Advance, North Carolina. He had a 73. He's 4 under, along with Sean Kelly from Bradenton, Florida. William Gordon from Davidson, North Carolina, 66. He's at 2 under, along with J.D. Tomlinson of Gainesville, Florida, 69 for him. He's 2 under. Dane Burkhart from Aiken, 69. He's at 1 under. Billy Kennerly from Alpharetta, Georgia, and I believe he's a Clemson golfer. 74 for him, 1 under par. Those are the only golfers under par. Boy, the course must be playing extremely tough. Only 7 golfers under par as they go to the final round tomorrow. Todd White of Spartanburg, perennial contender in most any amateur event he plays in. 74 today. He's +1, 8 shots off the pace. A few more minutes here with Coach John Day talking about his new book. It's fantastic. Encyclopedia of Armed Forces Football, the complete history of the glory years. And where can folks get it once again?
All right. First of all, it's up and available on Amazon. You order it straight from them. The publisher is St. Johann, Johann Press in New Jersey. You can go straight to him, or I keep copies, and I'll be glad to autograph. And I have a deal for them, Phil. Anyone that might want to order one with me, if they'd like to do so, I've got a 10-minute film on the 1945 Fleet City football team. It's a Navy team playing the Marines. Buddy Young, University of Illinois, and Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch both play in the game. I'll be glad. I'll give everyone that mentions your name, mentions the show, and wants to order from me, I'll give them a copy of that to see what football was like in World War II on the basis.
Fantastic.
My email address is jdaye@sc.rr.com. Just inquire. We'll do it online, and we'll figure out how to make it happen.
jdaye, D-A-Y-E, @sc.rr.com. Excellent. One last thing. You're investigating another potential book, and you were telling me off the air that you ran across a former head coach at Edgefield High School back in the 20s by the name of
J. Strom Thurmond.
He was the head football coach at Edgefield High School.
Yeah, at least for the 1 year. Now, I haven't gotten anything beyond that.
Yeah.
But
wonder how he did against Coach McKissick. He was coaching back then, wasn't he?
Close.
I wonder what kind of record that Strom Thurmond had. What kind of offense did he run? I'm sure it was conservative.
I'm sure.
I'm sure he ran the ball every single opportunity. Coach,
I think maybe he was the superintendent or was something like that after school. And back then, sometimes the superintendents were the head football coaches because no one else knew anything about football.
Yeah. Well, did he play football?
I'm not sure. I think he probably did in high school if it was, if it was still going, if it was going at that time.
We thank you for coming in.
Sir.
Always love to see you. Come by and see us anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Coach John Day, folks, the name of the book, The Encyclopedia of Armed Forces Football. I've got my copy of it, and it's terrific. And I'm looking forward to thumbing through it and reading more stuff and seeing these names, these very popular names that we later came to know in college and in the NFL. All right, David Hood. We're having no luck with our man David Hood at TigerNet right now. They might be on the field. That could be it. They could still be on the field. So we'll keep trying to reach him. In the meantime, if you would like to jump on the program with a comment or a question, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, it's @sportstalksc. The website is sportstalksc.com. And on Facebook, it's Sports Talk Radio Network. Today was the day that they played the North Carolina, South Carolina Select All-Star Baseball games. I think they were played down in Myrtle Beach, and it looks like, from what I've seen on some of the reporters there, it looks like South Carolina won both games.
Yes, they won the first one. I 6-5 in the first one. I did not see the results of the second.
7-4.
Okay.
According to our man Lou Beesjack from the Florence Morning News, 7-4 in the nightcap. So congratulations to the South Carolina team for doing that. Makes up for the 2 losses in the basketball doubleheader earlier this year. Let's see. The no Mike Morgan tonight. Typical, taking off on a Friday night. What do you expect from him as well? Braves are in action tonight. We'll update that for you coming up in just a little bit. And qualifying earlier today at Michigan, again, it was Casey Kane on the pole, 201.992. Kevin Harvick second, Brad Keselowski third, Carl Edwards fourth, Ryan Blaney fifth. And we'll get Monty Dutton's take on the day at Michigan, some of the developments there, what they're talking about. And he'll share his insights, the full Monty on NASCAR. Activity continues at USC and Clemson today and through the weekend with the football camps, top prospects coming in for both. We'll keep you up to date as best we can on our website, sportstalksc.com. On Twitter, make sure you use the hashtag STRecruiting to take you right to our recruiting notes and to our recruiting stories. And also the stuff on Twitter that we see from prospects as they tweet out offers and commitments and visits and things like that. By using the hashtag STRecruiting, that'll take you right to the stories that we have seen and we have retweeted on Twitter. Let's see. Oh, the NBA Finals. A night off, actually 2 days off. They'll pick it back up in San Francisco or Oakland, I guess you would say.
Oakland, yes.
Yeah, more correctly, on Sunday. And boy, Golden State took it to Cleveland. You know, I made the point last night, and of course, where's Steak Man? Is he back there in the shadows somewhere? He was kind of chuckling too, but he's an idiot, and so are the other guys. I mean, it's 1-on-5 out there. It's 1-on-5 with the current makeup of the Cavaliers and LeBron James, and people want to say, well, Michael did it, 1-on-5. Well, no, he didn't, because you go back and look, if Cleveland were healthy, LeBron would have Love available, and he'd have Irving available. Those would be his 2 wingmen, and that's really 3 great players. That's what you need. You go back and look at the Chicago teams that won championships. Yeah, Michael carried the bulk of it, but he always had Scottie Pippen. He had Kukoc, Tony Kukoc. He had Horace Grant. He had John Paxson. He had some good players around him. Bill Cartwright was a serviceable center, yes. That's what they were giving me grief about yesterday when I said Bill Cartwright. He was a serviceable center for them. He didn't score a whole lot, but he'd average about 6 or 7 rebounds a game for you, which is what his job was, and block shots. But they also had Luke Longley. They also had
they had the rebounder,
the big kid from Vanderbilt, Will
Purdue.
Will Purdue. Thank you. God, Coach Day, you're pretty smart on these things.
But they had the weird rebounder, the off the chart rebounder.
Oh, Dennis Rodman.
Yeah,
Dennis Rodman too.
Yes, sir,
so what I'm saying is, while Michael, he got the bulk of the offense and carried it, he didn't have to. He didn't have to do what LeBron's doing now. There was a period last night when LeBron was resting that the team that they had on the floor for Cleveland couldn't beat a YMCA team. I mean, J.R. Smith might as well. I don't know where he is. This was a guy, who was lights out. Now he couldn't throw it inside a 10-foot rim. And the rest of those guys, they just had, they didn't play well last night. Maybe it was just one night LeBron cut his head on a camera. That was terrible.
But during that span you're talking about, it went from 6 to 16 while LeBron sat, because they just had no talent on the floor.
They had nothing on the floor. So,
right.
Well, it looks like Golden State's going to win this thing. It looks like, and they finally did something that I thought they should have done from the beginning, and that was on every possession, double team LeBron. Get the ball out of his hands. Now, maybe they couldn't do that when Irving was healthy and able to play.
Or Love.
But I would have done, Love wasn't even in this series to begin with.
Right.
But I would have done that from the opening tip of game 1. I would have forced LeBron to give the ball up and take my luck with the other guys. Back in a moment. I just had a novel idea. You know, somebody's going to be losing a head coach in all likelihood, unless Dan Radakovich hires a Virginia assistant. Somebody's going to be losing a head coach when they fill the Clemson job. I mean, if you're the College of Charleston, yes, you might hire Scott Foxhall, who is a former player and coach there. You could do that, but why wouldn't you look at Jack Leggett if you're the College of Charleston? My goodness. Why would you not look at Jack Leggett for that job? And I don't want to hear anything about 61. All right, don't give me that. Age does not define people, only if you allow it to, and he's not going to allow his age to define him. You heard him. The guy has still got the fire burning, the competitive juices flowing. There's no doubt about that. How about that? What, College of Charleston, should you lose Monty Lee to Clemson and his staff, why wouldn't you look at Jack Leggett? And how about this idea? You bring in Jack Leggett 2 or 3 years at the least. Well, you heard him say he would not limit himself at Clemson. But you do that, you bring in Bradley LeCroy as his top assistant, recruiting coordinator, and maybe coach in waiting. Folks say Bradley's got a very sharp baseball mind. He's obviously an excellent recruiter. He's going to be a head coach somewhere someday. I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Phil. Glad I put that out there. If not there, we'll wait and see what happens. If Maryland loses their coach, if John Sheck becomes the guy, maybe Maryland would hire Jack. Jack's from the Northeast, up in Maine. The point is, if there's an opening, Jack would be a great hire for whoever is looking for a head coach. Think about that. Looks like Jadeveon Clowney is healthy. How about that? The Texans saying today that he is good to go. He's gotten the doctor's clearance, and he is ready to go for the opening week of the season. Got to get through training camp first, of course. But Clowney's expected to play in the first game of the Texans season, this according to ESPN. And the team told the network that he'll play against the Chiefs. They do plan to be careful about the amount of playing time he will get. Man, I tell you what, if he can stay healthy, and you know that he wants to get out there and prove people wrong, because for his junior year at South Carolina, his last year, and then, of course, missing all of last year, people don't believe maybe he has it anymore for such a young kid at 22. You put him out there opposite J.J. Watt. If he's healthy and doing the things that he can do, he can tear it up. He could certainly tear it up, because let's face it, you're going to shy away from J.J. Watt. You'd be smart to, but if they've got Clowney playing more of a stand-up linebacker type, not so much a true defensive end. But if he's on that opposite side, see a lot of plays running his way. And if he stays healthy, he's going to have the desire to go out there and reestablish his reputation. That he's going to have a big year in 2015. Back in a moment. Here's a name to stash away in your memory banks if you're a recruiting nut out there. Player who was at USC's camp today, Donovan Barnes. He's a 2018 kid from Savannah. Tweeted out that he had 7 interceptions during USC's camp today. So either he's got very good hands and is very good in coverage, or they had very bad quarterbacks throwing the football in camp today. But I'm sure they took note of that. Donovan Barnes, 2018 class out of Savannah. All right, let's turn our attention to the world of NASCAR, as we love to do on Friday night at this time. The Full Monty on NASCAR. Good friend Monty Dutton. You can read his stuff. His blog is excellent on NASCAR and other things. His blog is montydutton.com, MONTEDUTTON.com. You would have liked this, Monty, I think, knowing how you like sports of the past, history, and things of that nature. Coach John Day was in with us a little while ago. He's written a book entitled Encyclopedia of Armed Forces Football. And it's about football that was played on Army camps and various military camps and bases, not the West Point or Annapolis, those places. We're talking about the various camps and bases during the various world wars, I, II, and also Korea. It's great stuff. And did you know that Strom Thurmond was once the head coach at Edgefield High School?
No, but I can't. You know what else? I mean, a man can do a lot in a life that long.
Yes. I wonder how. I said to Coach, I wonder how he did against John McKissick. I don't think Coach McKissick faced him.
That's a good line. By the way, I just not too long ago, they had a thing here in dinner in Clinton honoring Kevin Long from USC.
Yeah.
And I saw King Dixon, and when I was a little boy, King Dixon played football against PC for the Quantico Marines, or he coached them. I think he was a player coach.
There you go. So he was one of those. I guarantee you, he's in this book somewhere.
Probably so.
I guarantee you. All right, to NASCAR. Casey Kane, where'd this come from today? Almost 202 miles an hour. Where did they find that?
Well, one possible explanation might be that at Hendrick Motorsports, as the stretch to the, you might start maybe giving the best equipment to the guys who aren't in the chase yet, which would be Jeff Gordon and Casey Kane.
Mm-hmm.
They might. I mean, now everybody always claims that everything's identical. But I've always thought that one of the keys to Tony Stewart's championship in 2012 was that by the way the chase started out, that he was about the only guy who had a shot in a Chevrolet, and I think that he got really good equipment, which was pretty obvious as he won 5 of the top of the 10 races. But I do think there's a little bit of a pecking order, and this is the point of the season when you try to get your people nailed into the chase. So maybe Kane's got extra good equipment this week.
Mm-hmm. Well, he obviously had a very good run today. One thing I heard discussion-wise coming out of Michigan this week, the talk about doing something to reduce the amount of downforce on the cars at these 1.5-mile tracks to do something to the handling characteristics of the car. Maybe you can expound on that a little bit. What are they talking about there? Will they do it, and what will they do to eliminate that or reduce it?
Well, I'm really shocked by this. The word is that they're at least thinking about trying a different set of aerodynamic requirements at the race at Kentucky, and they're actually saying that this would be like to prepare for next year, and like they do it one time as kind of like an R&D thing. But I think that's kind of ridiculous. First of all, how unimportant is that race if you're using it for a test session?
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, if it would be fabulously successful. Don't tell me that they would not. They would just put it in the closet to next year. But if it is successful and they implement it, every time you make changes, they're unforeseen. It affects the racing at other tracks and things. And so this strikes me. There's three things. First of all, if you look at the pattern of this year, NASCAR's initial was we got new rules. They're going to be great. Then there's a few races later, and the word was, hey, the real changes are going to be next year. And then the word was, well, we're going to stick with what we got, and we may not even change the rules next year. And then now it's, hey, we might change the rules for a race in about a month. And my first, when I hear this, when I go through this line of these stages, I think to myself, these guys are desperate. I mean, I think that as much as they're saying, a lot of times when you ask somebody a question and they get irrationally angry, what do you mean the racing's bad? The racing's better than it's ever been, and then it means they're kind of insecure about it. So I think that those attendance and ratings numbers that they can't seem to shake and that they're dangerous, I think it's got them really sort of panicky.
So what does this aerodynamic thing mean in terms of the racing? How will it improve if they make these changes? And does it have something to do with the way the second car following a car going into a corner handles and the ability to pass, or what are they trying to do?
Well, this year they reduced horsepower and reduced rear downforce, which oddly enough, only NASCAR could reduce horsepower and find speeds going up at half the races. So I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
But I think the latest thing would be to adjust it back. A lot of the drivers want the cars to be a little bit harder to drive, but I've seen this go back and forth for the whole time I've followed NASCAR. And it sort of goes back and forth because you sit there and say, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to fix it where you got to be a really good driver to win. This is the top level of NASCAR. And then if you find out that there's only a few really good drivers, they start deciding, well, maybe we need to make it where everybody's equal. And so it just sort of bounces back and forth. And my preference, of course, I'm always this way about every sport, but I think that if you just let it be, people will adjust. Just like if you have a coach that comes in and dominates a conference, the long-term consequences, the conference usually gets better because people have to raise their game to compete. Either that or the school. In modern times, what happens is that school moves to a bigger conference. But ideally, that would be what would happen.
So who do you like here at Michigan based on what you've heard in practice and what you saw in qualifying, though qualifying isn't always the telltale for the race. But, Michigan is that kind of track where oftentimes it's a mileage track, and who's got gas in the tank towards the end is going to be the one to win. So that's kind of hard to predict. But all things being equal from that standpoint, who do you like?
Well, I am tempted. I'm really getting tired because when you say every week that it looks like Kevin Harvick's really fast.
Yeah.
But Kevin Harvick has now finished second 8 times. I was very confident I should pick Kevin Harvick to finish second. I think that this is going to be heck, I'm just going to pick, even though it's on the pole, it's still an upset to pick. I've just got that Kane good equipment hunch going here.
Do you really? You think they've juiced up his car a little bit with some good stuff?
I don't think there's much to that. But I think a little bit, just having, the engine that looks a little bit stronger on the dyno or whatever. I think that, if it only went by the actual, if all the cars were really completely equal, then you would only have to say, well, then obviously they need to get drivers that are better. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jimmy Johnson's twice as much. They got to find another Jimmy Johnson. But I don't think that's the case. But I do think it makes a little difference.
Monty, as always, we appreciate your thoughts here on Friday nights. Enjoy the racing weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
You got it, my friend. Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR. And again, his blog is montydutton.com. That's Monty with an E, MONTEDUTTON.com. A little bit more racing coming your way here after the break. Of course, earlier this week, we were at Darlington to watch them test a little bit. And they had Clint Boyer, they had Eric Almirola, and they had Martin Truex Jr., who's coming off a win last week at Pocono. He's been great all season long. His first win of the season last weekend. We'll let you hear from him coming up after the break.
I love this racetrack, so it's fun to be here. And it's actually a good thing that it's warm outside because it'll give us a good opportunity to test. And, the track will get slick this afternoon, kind of like it'll get when we come back here for race weekend. So
Yeah, they are on the fields at Clemson with their camp. So David Hood not available to us to give us an update on the Tigers' second go-round of camp this week. Any notes coming out of that, any news, we'll put on our website, of course, tonight and over the weekend, sportstalksc.com, on Twitter, #STRecruiting. All right, back to a NASCAR Wednesday at Darlington. Big testing day. A lot of teams were there, including Martin Truex Jr. coming off the win at Pocono. He spoke with reporters during a break midway through the testing sessions and talked about being back at Darlington in the heat and testing on the old track.
I love this racetrack, so it's fun to be here. And it's actually a good thing that it's warm outside because it'll give us a good opportunity to test. And, the track will get slick this afternoon, kind of like it'll get when we come back here for race weekend. So it'll be good to get some time on the racetrack in those conditions and hopefully learn something from when we come back here in the fall. I mean, last 4 weeks we've led the most laps. It's just been Kansas fuel strategy a little bit, a pit strategy kind of got us, and Charlotte, really was just bad circumstances. We didn't do anything wrong. Dover, same way. So I don't know. I mean, a little bit better luck would go a long way. But honestly, I think we've got everything it takes to do what we need to do. We just got to keep working hard. Things are going to change. There's still a lot of racing left to go before the chase even starts. So we need to keep our eye on the prize, keep working hard, and hopefully be at our best with 10 to go. It was, honestly, I can't even explain the feeling, just because it meant so much to me, especially to have her there, and to see the excitement on her face and just how proud she was. That was probably the coolest part for me. I think that, in general, this whole season's been great. I felt good about it. It's, the win was definitely, the icing on the cake, but, it's really just been a great year for my racing career. It's been fun. It's been, very rewarding to get to where we are after the year we had last year. So we have a lot to be proud of. Like I said, the win was definitely an exclamation point. But even if we didn't get that, I think that we have a lot to be proud of, and we'll continue to build on that throughout the season and hopefully get to where we want to go by the end of it. No, I don't think so. I think it's just it's kind of a little insight into what the team wants to do, down the road. We're not talking this year or next year, maybe even the year after that. I think it's more that, the team wants to show that they plan on being here for a long time. They want to, prove to everybody that they're not just going to up and leave in a couple of years. So that just kind of shows their commitment to the sport. And I think that's a great thing. I think it's, something that could appeal to maybe some sponsorship and trying to get some companies on board with our race team. And really just building for the future. I think Barney plans on doing this for a long, long time. And I think it's just a way of those guys showing their, again, their commitment for the sport and where they want to go in the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I mean, it depends really on the racetrack. Here, this track is really so different than most of the places we go. It's, it's all about trying to take, kind of what we've been doing all year and saying, okay, how do we make it work at Darlington? This isn't really a place where you learn a lot for other racetracks. So, it's more of just a little tune up and a test session to say, okay, kind of get an idea of what we're going to need to do here in the fall to be competitive. Is the stuff we're doing at other racetracks going to work here? And so just trying to figure the little thing out, for when we come back. Oh, I mean, it's near the top. I mean, this I absolutely love this racetrack. Obviously, the history around the Southern 500 and what it means to the sport, it's just unbelievable. It's over the top. So I feel like this is one of the tracks where, this is one of my better racetracks. And I know the results probably don't show it, but I've led a lot of laps here. Feel very comfortable here. And this is a place that it's right at the top of my list of places I'd love to win at. So hopefully we'll be able to do that this season. Yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, the biggest reason the penalties are up is because guys are just pushing the limits. I mean, that's bottom line. It's so competitive. Any little bit you can gain on pit road is such a big deal. And I think, I can remember back when I was racing nationwide in my early years in Cup, we never talked about timing lines or, gaining that advantage where you can speed out of the box and slam on the brakes before the next time in line and all those things. Everybody's just trying to get everything they can get in every aspect, every stall on pit road, racetracks where the pit road has a radius around a corner. You're running different speeds than when you're going straight. So it's just, the bottom line is everybody's just pushing it further than they ever have, trying to gain that little bit of an advantage.
Martin Truex Jr. from Darlington earlier this week, and he's got a pretty good starting spot for tomorrow's race at Michigan, doesn't he? I thought I saw him early in the rundown. Well, maybe I didn't see him early in the rundown. Why am I not finding him? Oh, because I'm looking at the wrong rundown here. I think he was in the top 10 in qualifying today, if my memory serves me correctly. And we'll be back in just a moment. Don't forget the College World Series begins tomorrow in Omaha. I miss Omaha. I miss the Drover and my 22-ounce steaks. Maybe next year we'll get there with somebody. Time for a final phone call of the week, and, of course, there's no better way to wrap up a marvelous week of sports talk than by welcoming the de facto mayor of the city of Charleston, the bad boy by the bay, the ninja of the night, the pontiff of the port city, the queen of the cowboy crybabies, unless, he went Bruce Jenner and now he's the king of the cowboy crybabies, and most recently the director of the Scottish Ballet in their performance of A Streetcar Named Desire at the recently completed Spoleto Festival in Charleston. It's not Jim Rome. He's doing a horrible show on Showtime right now. Have you seen that show with Jim Rome on Showtime? It's pitiful. Nope, it's J. Rome.
Has he picked a fight with anybody yet?
Somebody should pick a fight with his director. It's one of those typical studio audience television shows where everything is canned and the audience laughs and claps at everything. It's just silly.
Hey, by the way, Phil, Cleveland's going to win Game 5. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Can't do it.
I know I'm the only one believing it. Hey, you made LeBron James taste his own blood. There ain't no way he's gonna let them get away with that.
If a short, stubby white guy is your second best scorer, you got no chance.
So you have to believe, Phil.
I believe Golden State's gonna win. That's what I believe. I think they're wearing them down. Their deep bench. I think they've the lineup change that they did last night obviously paid off tremendously. And I think they'll continue to double down on LeBron and until somebody else emerges. And who's going to emerge for Cleveland? Who's going to be that other big time scorer?
I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody's going to step up Sunday night, and they're going to win Game 5.
You want to put a little something on that? You got a little something you want to put on that, Jerome?
Sure, you name it, Phil.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'll take Golden State. You take Cleveland, and the loser has to buy the winner dinner at Hyman's on King Street in Charleston.
I know where it is. It's right in front of the bank I go to. I know where it is.
Okay.
I won't have to go far to pay off my debt.
Mm-hmm. Will they let you in?
I just walk across the street.
Are you allowed into Hyman's? I know you're banned from pretty much most of Charleston.
I don't think so.
All right, you're on, Jerome.
The money at the door.
You are on. You are on. All right, that is J. Rome, Scottish ballet director. I wonder how he looked in a pair of tights. Ugh. That sends chills up and down my spine. All right, that will do it. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thanks to Jack Leggett and John Day, Dwayne McLemore, Monty Dutton. Thank you, State Man, for doing nothing. Thank you, Larkin Belton. Great job behind the glass. Pro will be back with us Monday night. K-Mac is gone next week on vacation. I will be here, of course. I never leave. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you Monday night right here on Sports Talk.